speaking of Azure, some of the cases we've done focused solely on Azure. And what we see is that there's a lot of unclarity on buying Azure and how this translates to using Azure. And one specific case that we've done, they really put me to the test and asked me, okay, so can I do it like this, or can I set my contract up like that and the technical environment like that? If not, what do I need to change contractually or technically? So very glad that they did, because it allowed me to mold that over, and I came up with a couple of scenarios that I want to go through that might make sense for you as well. This might not have the longest time that this information will live online, because with the Microsoft customer agreement coming to direct markets more and more, this might go out of date, because it still talks about buying Azure through the enterprise agreement. If you ask me, it still is the best motion to procure Azure in. And don't worry if you're in an indirect market, because if you're an indirect Microsoft market, this is still available to you. If you're in a direct market, it might be more difficult, but there's always different ways that lead to Rome. If you're in a direct market, they're pushing you to the MCA. Always tell them, no, I want to procure all my Microsoft software and services in one contract. I have a heavily special amended contract. I don't want to move to a contractual vehicle like the MCA, where there is no possibilities to create customized terms. I don't agree with the language in it, blah, 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 etc., etc. And they might still grant you the exception to license Azure in the SCE or an EA. Why do I think this is important? Again, technically, Microsoft usually works very differently from contractually. The enterprise agreement contract, while still being, in my opinion, the best contractual vehicle for Azure, is quite an old model and quite an old beast. That is why there's a couple of different options to procure. So the standard option is what you will see here. Basically, if you have all kinds of different affiliates that want to use Azure in an own technical environment, everybody can sign up to their own enrollment, which is the top layer, is the contractual level, and then sign up to their own Azure environment or tenant environment or technical environment. Linked to that contract, start consuming and get invoiced either month over month, or have some sort of Azure commitment, like a prepayment or a consumption commitment set up where they are going to consume against. However, in this case, what you don't have is similar benefits. Microsoft will probably treat these as three separate deals, and then incentivize you on three different ways, depending on how the first affiliate is handling, how much Azure they're handling versus how much the others are handling. So if the question is, how do you get as much benefits and incentives aligned for all your Azure usage within your affiliates in your organization, there's a couple of other ways. There's one way where you sign up to everything in one enrollment, and you have one single environment, and within your technical environment, you're going to set up departments for your different affiliates. Below departments, you have another level of granularity, accounts and subscriptions, and those accounts and subscriptions have their own administrators, for instance, as well. But what you're doing essentially here is you have one overarching technical environment that will probably have one single administrator or a couple, but you will set up each affiliate in their own department, meaning that they will see this as the highest level of granularity for themselves. So they're consuming within this space, and all the consumptions under this department will roll up to department level and will quickly see what the cost and the spend is. And the same for all the other departments. Now, because they all have their own administrators and have insights into their own department, there's not really a technical difference between the top level environment and the department level view. And to understand more, I've added the link to the Microsoft page detailing how to understand the roles and different levels of granularity that you have within the Azure environment. In this setup, there's one contract. The entire commitment for all affiliates will be discussed potentially on this level. All incentives will be granted on this level. And in that sense, everybody will have the same benefits. Now, then there was the question, but what if I can't get all my affiliates to sign in one single agreement? Well, I've set up a third scenario where you have one lead contract with a couple of tenant enrollments for affiliates, and those tenant enrollments can have a technical Azure environment linked to it. So in this sense, you have one main enrollment, two customer affiliate enrollments, meaning you have three enrollments where billing might be able to happen. As such, you can link any of three environments to those different enrollments. In this sense, Microsoft will see it as one contract as well, because any incentive that is being granted to a lead enrollment will automatically flow through a tenant enrollment as well. So you can set up the first contract, add tenant enrollments to it, and in that sense, you have separate technical environments. You're not sitting in one technical environment, as is the case here. The only thing that will happen here, where no alterations can be made, is that billing will roll up to the enterprise level. So all the billing will happen towards the lead enrollment and not to the tenant enrollments. So as you can see, depending on the requirements that you have billing-wise, Azure technical environment-wise, etc., there's multiple ways that lead to Rome. You can mix and match all these three as well to your benefit and to the way you have set up your organization. So maybe for some this makes sense, but for others this would be fine as well. You can do it that way, basically creating departments under this one or under this one or whatever to get to your desired result. I just think this is very interesting because this will give you an idea of how to maximize your incentives that Microsoft might be willing to grant you based on a certain commitment that you're giving them on the Azure platform. And your incentives will be less in this view, and you might get more out of it in this or in this situation.